Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sarah McDonald from Life Science Cares, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the third From the Frontlines conversations with our partners who are doing really important work in the community. It is my honor today to be joined here by Sam Truex from Quench Bio. I'll turn it to her in just a minute, as well as Dan Noyes and QG Shi from Tech Goes Home, partners that we have been working very closely with the last couple of weeks in their very important mission. Just a couple of housekeeping notes for today. We are recording this session and we'll send you the recording after we get off the line today. Feel free to share it with any of your colleagues and friends. We also will send you links that refer to anything that we talk about today. So don't worry about missing a conversation on how to get involved or how to connect. We'll ensure that we send you follow-up information. And finally, if you have questions for anyone, feel free to use the Q&A function in the Zoom, and Christine Castellini from Life Science Cares will moderate the Q&A and pose questions to the panelists. So that being said, we are very excited to welcome Sam Truex, who's the CEO of Quench Bio, here to help us kick off today's session. Sam, in her generosity and genius, I must say, issued a challenge to other CEOs and companies in the Atlas Venture portfolio to raise money to support Life Science Cares. And we are so amazed at the $65,000 that employees of Quench and many other Atlas portfolio companies has brought to Life Science Cares. I'm going to let Sam tell you why she issued that charge and encourage you all to get involved.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm also pleased and honored to be here today, and glad to be becoming more involved with Life Science Cares. So in terms of the charge that challenge we made to the Atlas portfolio, I have two things to mention. One is why Life Science Cares is important from my personal perspective, and then what led to that challenge of the portfolio. So Life Science Cares itself is an organization that I've known about for some time, yet I actually have been involved with one of its partner organizations. My family and I have been volunteers for Household Goods in Acton, Massachusetts, which is one of the partner organizations. We've been doing that for a number of years. So we've seen firsthand the kind of difference that an organization like that can make. And we had put our efforts directly to that organization and had donated even via Reach the Beach, which is a running relay that Atlas organizes a team for and makes it a fundraising event. And so I had started directing my funds first to Household Goods, and then the last time I ran it, split those between Life Science Cares and Reach the Beach. And then late last year, decided it was probably time, now that I'm leading a company, to really engage as an advisor. And so I had reached out to Sarah, and behind the scenes had been setting it up to become an advisor. So I appreciate the chance to do that. And then secondly, I've actually known Rob Perez, the founder of Life Science Cares, for some time. He and his family lived right here in my neighborhood until a few years ago. They raised their family here, as I have, and they're just a genuinely wonderful set of human beings and a bright spot in our community. So that's why my interest in Life Science Cares and all it's doing for the community. And then on rallying the CEOs in the Atlas Venture portfolio, I actually have to give credit really to Renee Russo. She's the CEO of Exilio Therapeutics and has been on the Life Science Cares board for some time. And she emailed a group of CEOs in the Atlas portfolio a few weeks ago. And when she did that, she encouraged us to make a gift. But then when I saw that Life Science Cares was putting out a challenge to donors to reach certain levels, and I thought, well, our little biotech companies probably can't individually do that, nor can we personally do that. but I thought there is power in numbers, and perhaps I could challenge the group, and I do love a challenge. So I set about, with Renee's support and that of the Atlas partners, putting that challenge together, and it was great to have the support of the folks at Life Science Cares to make a specific donation page. And no surprise to anyone who knows the great people of the Atlas Venture portfolio that the challenge was met swiftly and wholeheartedly and exceeded pretty swiftly. So that was great. And I just hope that other companies in the life sciences arena, and perhaps the portfolios of some of the other highly successful firms like Flagship and Third Rock and Polaris, maybe we'll band together to do the same and support this very important cause, and the partner organizations like the one we're about to hear about with Tech Goes Home, and so that they can make a difference to people who are really facing more challenge than normal with COVID-19 surrounding us all. So thanks for having me, and I'll be pleased to learn more about Tech Goes Home today.
Thanks, Sam. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our special guests, Dan and QJ from Tech Goes Home, who in ordinary times do heroic work to bridge the digital divide in Boston and beyond, and have really responded very quickly in the unique circumstances we all find ourselves in. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan and QJ, and look forward to hearing about where you guys are at.
That's great. Thank you. And we're definitely honored to be here. Are you going to put up the slides? Do you want to do that?
Yep.
So my name is Dan Noyes. I'm the co-CEO of Tech Goes Home. And QJ, if you just want to say hello, you're muted. QJ's muted.
Sorry, that's such a rookie mistake. I should have gotten my mouse ready there. My name is QJ Shi. I'm the Chief Program Officer of Tech Goes Home. I'm normally much faster on Zoom.
And I'm going to give the standard warning I give to all when I do Zoom calls, is that I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old who are home, and it is almost guaranteed that one of them or both of them will make some sort of appearance in this webinar, because there's no way I can stop them from doing so. So there's your warning up front. So Tech Goes Home, you can see right on the screen, our mission is to empower communities to access and use digital tools to overcome barriers and advance lives. Much more simply put, we work hard to get new computers, good internet, and digital life skills training into the hands of those without. So kids can do homework at home. So adults can find jobs and manage finances. So seniors can connect with loved ones. And all of these issues were incredibly important and incredibly challenging on March 1st. And then all of a sudden, the massive pandemic hits, and a terrible spotlight has been shown on the inequities that exist in our society, to the point where actually the media has started paying attention to this, which is such a strange thing for us. We try hard to get media attention. It doesn't always work, but just in the last week, we had something in the Boston Globe about one of our families specifically dealing with learning in times of COVID. And then we were happy to have the Boston Business Journal publish an op-ed that my fellow co-CEO wrote with me, just all about the issues that our families are facing. So if you want to go ahead and switch to the next slide here. What I want to do is now turn it over to QJ, and she's going to give you an overview of our programming, and then we can talk also about how we've changed quite a bit, like so many orgs, what we do, and then what we're planning for a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. So I'm going to turn it over to QJ.
Thanks, Dan. That was a great intro. So I'll talk about our model kind of pre-COVID and post-COVID. Like Dan mentioned, our mission is to provide technology, internet, and skills to people. So we do that through a 15 hours of Tech Goes Home classes. And I think our model is really unique because we work with such a variety of partners. So we have over 160 partners throughout the greater Boston area who are all experts in working with different communities. It might be homeless shelters, domestic violence organizations, food pantries, other client-based organizations, schools. So they are all experts in the communities that they serve, and they have expertise with specific populations. So we operate on a train-the-trainer model, meaning that we provide an orientation to the partners, and they take the resources that we have on digital literacy and then tailor it to be relevant for who they're serving. So that can mean, you know, for folks who are in workforce development, they're doing lessons on, you know, how do you search for jobs online? How do you create a resume? Along in the 15 hours, we review information around affordable internet access so that once people leave the Tech Goes Home program, they can stay connected. We also provide a discounted device. At the end of the 15 hours, each graduate can take home a brand new Chromebook for $50. In our early childhood program, it's a brand new iPad for $50. And then I think in the 15 hours of training, our instructors really hone in on getting the basic skills, getting the critical thinking skills, so that people are ready to continue learning once they have the device and once they go home. Ready for the next slide. So this is a little bit about what Dan was talking about. Right now, there's a huge spotlight on the digital divide, and this is one of the articles that included one of our graduates. Her kids are actually featured. So I think we are getting a lot of requests from different folks. Just there's a huge need right now for technology, but I think the gap is also around education. So once people do have access to the technology, how they use it. Once they open the box, what do they do? Okay, next slide, please. So one of the things we're doing is making sure that people are connected and have the tech. This is actually one of the deliveries that one of our partners was doing. She actually, once they got the devices, she delivered each device to each person's home. So this is the kind of work that our partners are doing. Next slide. So post-COVID, we have really learned to adapt our programming. All of our programming before COVID had been in person, because the hands-on, helping people get online, helping people know how to use the mouse, know how to use a trackpad was a lot easier in person. But we have moved into a distance learning model, and pictured here are our instructors attending a webinar so we can train them on how to run a distance learning course. So right now we're in the pilot stages of doing distance learning, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Next. So in addition to that, we are also kind of sprucing up the existing resource library that we have on our website. So we have, normally we have resources on for community organizations, for folks in schools, and that's around, you know, basic computer skills or accessing different city resources. We've also created a COVID resource page, and you'll see that it's resources on all different topics, like accessing computers and internet, distance learning, remote instruction for those who are teachers, and financial assistance, and so on, just so people can have access to a tutorial video on ordering food, or a tutorial video and a guide on how do you apply for unemployment. Next. So supporting for efforts, I think right now there's a huge need for funding, and I think Dan might be able to talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to touch on the wonderful volunteer work that's being done right now, and maybe make an ask for a contribution for volunteers. So right now we have folks who are creating the online guides that you saw in the previous slides, and how-to videos. So as people are trying to figure out how to get online, being able to go to our YouTube channel and then being walked through the steps of learning a different digital tool. So we most recently had a Life Science Cares volunteer do a video on how to sign up for Zoom via Chromebook, and that's been uploaded to our YouTube. So we keep adding these videos online. And we also need some help translating materials. We serve a very diverse group of folks, and right now our translations are in Spanish only. So we really hope that there are folks with language capacities beyond English and Spanish so that we can get that made available on our website. So at this point, I think I'm turning it over for questions.
Well, I just want to quickly mention something, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, QJ, for that. We started off the conversation talking about this terrible spotlight, and I think one of the things that we often fight against as an organization is that there are certain assumptions out there about who has access, who has computers, and who knows how to use it. You'll often hear on podcasts or radio or news that, oh, everyone has a computer, everyone has the internet. And the stubborn reality is that nearly half of all people in this country with incomes under $30,000 a year have nothing at home of technology. So if you look at like the Boston area, what that equates, you're talking well over 150,000 people in our community don't have computers at home, don't have internet at home. And then there's a step up from that where people who might only have their phone, and that's it. And I know some of us say, oh, it'd be so great to get off our phones and not have internet. But then start thinking about, especially in this time, well, how are you going to communicate with your parents or your kids? How are you going to apply for that job? How are you going to get those groceries? How are you going to do everything that so many of us take for granted that not only do people not have access to, but they don't even have the opportunity to learn about it because it's just not in their neighborhood. So this is why organizations that like Life Science Cares are so important, because they're working with organizations and companies that are focused on helping people in their community. And Life Science Cares is able to help direct those funds to organizations like Tech Goes Home. I'm biased, but like Tech Goes Home, they're doing the work on the ground that organizations like Sam might not have heard about. So I can't thank Sarah and her team enough for the work they've done. I remember meeting Sarah, I think we met for the first time 3-4 years ago. It was a long time. We were at the 14-something cafe in one of the squares in Cambridge. And I think we ended up talking for 2 hours and just saying, oh, how amazing is this idea. And I'm so proud of what you have developed this group into. And I just want to thank you for all the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even ask him to say that. So that's great. Christine, do we have a question?
Yes. Do you think that the internet should be a public utility, and should there be some improved access subsidized for people who are low income?
This is going to surprise you all, but yes. God, yes. I mean, I kind of view this as if, so we think in Boston itself, about 30% of people don't have broadband. It's hard to gauge because it's hard, but that's our guess, is 30% of the entire population doesn't have broadband. If 30% of people in the city didn't have drinking water, or if 30% of the people didn't have electricity, or if 30% of the people were homeless, it would be a crisis beyond the pandemic we're facing. Internet is getting to the point now in our lives where if you don't have it, you can't go to school anymore. I've had 5 telehealth visits in the last 6 weeks with my various doctors. You can't get medical care if you don't have the internet anymore. You can't apply for unemployment. So anyone who's read up on this, the unemployment telephone lines do not work. They don't work, they're flooded, they're overwhelmed, you can't get through. You can sometimes get through if you submit online. So now you can't get unemployment benefits if you don't go online. 80% of Fortune 500 companies require online applications for jobs. And I bet if I ask Sam, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but any job at Quench, I'm guessing, has to be done online. Someone can't walk in and say, here's my resume, here's my paper application. So more and more, and this trend of the internet, this fad is not going away. So we just see this as a widening gap with the people we serve, who are 85% people of color, 50% immigrants, 91% are considered very low income by HUD. These are the people that can least afford to be left behind, and they are being left behind. So long answer to your question is, should be a public utility? Damn straight, it should be a public utility.
Dan, can I ask one follow-up, just because we have been talking so much about the unique challenges that COVID-19 has posed. And we talked last week to our folks who are in food access. And for them, similar to you guys, just supply chain has been a really interesting challenge. Something we take advantage of 99% of the time, and which has completely broken down in a number of ways. Talk a little bit about what you guys have done to manage access to the goods.
We've wrangled. I mean, it's been like a rodeo. So for us, the specific goods are the computers, also the internet piece. That's actually even more problematic, where for a while the stock of Chromebooks was gone. There weren't any you could buy. Part of the issue was that the coronavirus started in China, where so many of these devices are made. So that slowed things down. Microchips weren't being made. That has slowly picked up a bit. But now what you're finding too, and I don't want to compare this to masks because it's apples and oranges, but you're finding that big groups are coming in and buying 200,000 at a time and putting them away. And so an organization like ours, we're really proud. We'll serve about 6,000 people this year, hopefully. But we can't compete with an order for 200,000. The internet piece is even worse, where the sign-up process has become very burdensome for people, even for discounted plans. Some providers don't even have discounted plans, or if they do, they make it so complicated to get it that no one can navigate the process. Comcast actually has a pretty good one called Internet Essentials that it's one of the few that we recommend people sign up for. But even then, you can't call to sign up right now because their lines are so full. So it's just better to do it online if you can. But if you don't have internet, how are you supposed to sign up for internet online? That's kind of my question. You can't go to the library. It's almost impossible to do on your phone. So we also, on the hotspots are another thing that people ask about, like those little hockey pucks you can get. That was quite a 2-week tale of me making more phone calls than I would ever want to make in my life, trying to find stock. We went everywhere from China to Taiwan to St. Paul, Minnesota to Rhode Island. And ironically, we ended up finding a good number of them in South Boston, which was just I don't know how that works. It was through a national person. Anyway, we ended up getting a good chunk of them that now we're distributing to our learners. But that distribution is a challenge.
I have another question from the group. How are you prioritizing your customers? I'm assuming this means the people that you're serving. So tell us a little bit about that process.
QJ, do you want to talk about that and maybe talk about our rubric system and our partner system?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we're prioritizing has been the same way that we prioritize through our normal programming, which is working through our partners who already serve the population that we want to be serving. So people who are low income, people of color, immigrants, people who don't already have access to the internet or a device. We have gotten some tech requests, and we had to develop a few new processes. So one of them, because we previously didn't just provide tech, we always had the education piece along with it. We created a new rubric system where we evaluate the requesters, communities they're serving. And if they had, if they were a previous partner with us, we know that they're serving the communities that we want, so they would score higher. So that's kind of an example of some of the new processes that we've developed as a response to COVID and the needs out there.
Yeah, the 6 groups that we kind of put at the top of the front of the line are obviously people who are low income, people who are unemployed or underemployed, people without computers at home, people without internet at home. And then there's 2 groups that kind of are more specialized that we want to serve. And those are people where English is not their first language, immigrant groups. Just it's such a disadvantage right now, thanks to some national policies that aren't so great. That then also we want to serve those with special needs as well. So it doesn't have to be the learners have special needs. It could be that a family member of that learner has special needs. So those kind of 6 pillars kind of guide us. And then there's always, like we do, 10% of our learners are seniors. I don't mean seniors in high school, I mean seniors. Our oldest participant we've ever had was 94 years old. He was a Tuskegee Airman. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Enoch Woodhouse. He was one of the very first Black Marines in the United States. Black airmen in the United States. His brother was the first Black Marine in North Carolina. And he's an incredible story. And ironically, his course focused on how to access health resources online. And so he was able to get a computer, internet, and hopefully some skills that have helped him during this pandemic to access his doctors or at least information about health.
Since we are getting close to our appointed end time, I'll pause there and thank Dan and QJ and Sam for joining us for our third From the Frontlines. For folks who want to know more and more importantly, do more to support organizations like Dan's and the others that Life Science Cares is funding and supporting with volunteer efforts through this pandemic and well beyond, you can find that information on our website, lifesciencecares.org. We have active virtual volunteer opportunities, including the tutorials that QJ mentioned. We have ways to donate wish list items using the power of the internet to meet needs all across the Commonwealth. And we have examples of creative ways that companies can think about leveraging their budgets or buying power to help nonprofits who are on the front lines right now. So please check out lifesciencecares.org. We're actually going to shift these from the front lines to every other week starting now. We will see you all again on Thursday, May 7th at 3 p.m. and we'll be sharing details on that session very soon. Thank you all for your time. Look forward to seeing you soon, and everybody stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Good work.
Bye-bye.
Bye.